Interdimensional travel, sex with aliens, communion with God. Anything is possible with just a sprinkle of DMT. Akasha Song's secret labs made millions of doses and dollars until the feds showed up. This is the unbelievable story of a man who pursued spiritual enlightenment only to become a drug lord. The year is 2021. Akasha Song rides shotgun in a dusty Fiat truck deep in Brazil's scorching Caatinga. This desert-like region, so hot and dry, is grimly nicknamed the Gatehouse of Hell. Akasha, a fit 43-year-old American with a shaved head and wild white beard, is thrilled despite the desolate landscape. His driver, Jose, speaks little English, but their destination is clear. Akasha believes Jose is leading him to a farm where a special tree grows, Jurema preta. This tree's inner root bark contains high concentrations of DMT, a powerful psychedelic. For Akasha, DMT is both a holy sacrament and his most lucrative product. For 5 years, Akasha had covertly built a psychedelics empire. He set up secret labs across the western U.S., transforming legal Jurema bark into illegal DMT. Operating under the dark web handle Shimshai, he sold millions of doses. His packaging featured a blissed-out human, rainbow colors swirling from their open cranium. Now, Akasha was here in Brazil to find the ultimate source. As they drove, the landscape shifted from desert to subtropical forest. Jose finally pulled over. "Jurema," he announced, gesturing into the dense woods. Akasha, confused, asked where the farm was. Jose simply repeated, "All of it." It was then Akasha understood. Every gnarled tree in the endless forest was Jurema preta. Each pound of bark meant hundreds of doses. "Holy shit," he thought. "That is a lot of DMT." In that moment, he felt like the Pablo Escobar of psychedelics. Looking back, Akasha admits his motives weren't purely spiritual. He didn't envision healing trauma or building psychic networks. "I didn't," he says bluntly. "I saw billions of dollars." This journey marked the tipping point of his ascent, driven by both spiritual hunger and immense greed. To understand Akasha's empire, you must first understand DMT. Smoking, vaping, or injecting just a few dozen milligrams promises an experience unlike any other. Psychiatrist Rick Strassman, a pioneer in modern DMT research, compares it to television. Other psychedelics adjust the picture, but DMT changed the channel. Users describe 3 levels of a DMT trip. The first, often called the waiting room, is a wall of interlacing fractal images that fill your vision, even with closed eyes. You might hear sounds that aren't there or feel inexplicable euphoria or fear. It's an overwhelming sensory explosion. At the next level, this geometry unfolds into 3-dimensional space. You might find yourself transported to the moon, a castle, or a beach. You could enter a pyramid or a pulsating, womb-like Russian bathhouse. Users often feel they are in this new place, sometimes leaving their physical body entirely. In this other dimension, you're highly likely to encounter entities. Elves, insectoids, reptilians, aliens, gods, and clowns are all common. One participant in a DMT study even reported being attended to by a 3-foot-tall, hyper-intelligent Gumby. These beings can be benevolent, terrifying, or even engage in bizarre interactions like live surgical experiments or sexual encounters. DMT web forums buzz with debates. Are these entities real or just mental representations? One Reddit thread even discussed whether having sex with entities constitutes cheating. Another user famously complained that entities wouldn't stop masturbating while he tried to converse with God. These conversations highlight the utterly bizarre and subjective nature of the experience. They also reveal the fervent community surrounding the drug. The third, rarest level of trip leads to transcendent states. Users report oneness with the universe, becoming God, or embracing death. Some pass entire lifetimes in these other realms, experiencing self-annihilation that reduces their fear of death. These peak experiences are often described as profoundly spiritual. Back on Earth, it's all over in less than 20 minutes. Some call it the businessman's trip, because its most dramatic effects fit easily within a lunch break. DMT is the active ingredient in ayahuasca, but without ayahuasca's compounds that slow its breakdown, DMT flashes through the brain at turbo speed. Preliminary research suggests DMT can have lasting psychological and therapeutic effects. While some experts caution against its use for certain mental health conditions, a 2022 study showed promise. 40% of clinically depressed subjects given DMT were in full remission 6 months after 1 or 2 doses. Despite potential negative experiences, many find it helps them process trauma, reconsider emotional problems, or glimpse the divine. These varied accounts paint a picture of a drug with immense, yet largely unexplored, therapeutic potential. It remains a substance of great scientific interest. For all those otherworldly effects, finding DMT in the everyday world is surprisingly easy. It exists in small quantities within every human nervous system, though its purpose isn't fully understood. Some studies suggest it may play a role in dreaming. It's found in Jurema preta, citrus leaves, and even rabbit organs. One of the most psychoactive substances known, it's everywhere around and inside us. Unlocking its potential, however, involves a simple chemical extraction and a violation of U.S. federal law. For years, that violator was Shimshai, or Akasha Song, legally known as Joseph Clements. Before Akasha Song, there was Joseph Clements. In 1992, at 14, he took LSD for the first time. He went home and had what he calls the most profound conversation of his life with his father, who somehow didn't notice his son was tripping. "Who am I? Why am I here?" he remembers asking himself. It was the first time these fundamental questions had ever hit me. For years, Clements dropped acid monthly. He hung out with friends, listened to music, finding depth in otherwise mundane social life. He'd do all that square, normal stuff on acid, he recalls. He filled a business card with marks, tracking his many trips. Clements' early life was outwardly typical Texas: BMX biking, church. His parents, a Catholic engineer and a Baptist oil worker, divorced when he was 6. He attended both churches and various youth groups, thinking he was exploring the full breadth of religious experience. Around 10th grade, school lost its appeal. He was diagnosed with ADHD, unusually early for his time. When he caused trouble, his father staunchly defended him, blaming the disorder. This, Clements admits, instilled a dangerous sense of invincibility. This invincibility persisted through later difficulties. In his late teens, Clements realized his father had sexually abused him as a child. He broke ties, moving in with his mother, and didn't speak to his father again for decades. This profound personal trauma undoubtedly shaped his future choices and search for escape. After high school, he married a waitress, and they had a son. He soon discovered she was addicted to opioids, selling belongings to fund her habit. They split. Clements, a natural salesman, found work in various fields: door-to-door vacuums, web design, billboard advertising. His legal troubles began: multiple marijuana possession charges, 2 DUIs. One DUI while on probation led to a 6-month prison sentence. While incarcerated, devastating news arrived. His estranged wife died of an overdose. Their 6-year-old son tragically found her body. Clements moved on and straightened his life. His son moved back in. He remarried, had a daughter, and stopped using drugs other than marijuana. He and his second wife were careful to budget for their marijuana use. He built a successful marketing career, consulting for entrepreneurs and preaching Robert Kiyosaki's rich dad, poor dad gospel of financial independence. He settled into a mainstream Texas life. He was outwardly conforming, but perhaps internally unfulfilled. Then, on New Year's Eve 2012, at age 34, Clements attended a string cheese incident concert near Denver. He took acid for the first time in over a decade. Surrounded by thousands of like-minded people dancing, singing, and tripping, he felt an immediate connection. My people, he thought. His Texas life suddenly seemed empty. He returned to Houston and told his wife he wanted to quit his job, sell everything, and move to Colorado. She responded by leaving him, taking their daughter. Clements grieved, but his rebirth was no whim. He began preparing to move to Colorado with his son, seeking a similar community. He quit his career, traveling constantly to music festivals, taking every psychedelic on offer. As he reinvented himself, Clements changed his name. He couldn't bear his father's name anymore. He chose Akasha Song, inspired by the Akashic records, an ethereal compendium of all experiences. He was reborn as Akasha Song. It was also around this time that Akasha Song discovered DMT. A friend from the festival scene gave him a capsule of dreams, claiming it was equivalent to 300 hits of acid. One evening in Houston, Akasha placed pale yellow DMT crystals onto ash in his weed pipe. The crystals had a perfumed new shoe smell. He lit it, took his first hit, and his vision dissolved into platonic shapes, the geometric waiting room of DMT. That was the extent of his first trip. As alien as DMT's effects were, he says he felt like he was entering a comfortable, natural mental state, exactly where he was supposed to be. I just remember falling in love immediately, he says. Over the next months, Akasha smoked DMT dozens of times. While details often fade like dreams, one trip stands out as his pinnacle. It began with him hitting his head and waking in an endless void. 7 light humanoids gathered around him. He realized they were everyone he had ever known. One entity lifted him, gesturing at the void filled with infinite other light entities encircling people waking or falling asleep. Their states of awareness created a sine wave of music of epiphany. Akasha understood his earthly life was a dream, fading. He felt sadness, fearing he'd forget loved ones. The entities seemed to sense his wish to keep dreaming. They laid him back down, and as the trip subsided, he returned to his body. For days, Akasha was reluctant to speak. He was still convinced that the people around him were characters being performed by the entities he had met. He felt he'd seen the reality underlying human experience, and his entire waking life was merely a dream. On some level, he says, he has never stopped believing it. Akasha had heard that it was possible, relatively easy even, to make DMT. This notion struck him as almost miraculous. A friend told him that a woman they knew who sold tie-dyed t-shirts at music festivals was familiar with the process. When Akasha asked her, she invited him to her house on the outskirts of Houston the next day. The moment he arrived, she sat him down on her living room couch, handed him a pipe, and told him to smoke a dose, perhaps a test. As he returned, he saw the precursor ingredients laid out: lye, the solvent naphtha, and powdered jarima bark. She walked him through the process. Mix lye with hot water in a mason jar, add bark powder, then naphtha. A yellow solution separates. Draw it off, squirt into a baking pan, freeze. Crystals form, pure DMT. Akasha carefully wrote it all down. His tutor gifted him a kilo of bark. He and a friend immediately drove to Ace Hardware, bought naphtha and lye, and followed the process Akasha had just been taught. They smoked the results the next day, reveling in the magic of DIY psychedelic alchemy. Then they drove around town, selling their DMT to friends. They instantly made back the money they'd spent at the hardware store, as well as a small profit. It was the most amazing thing, Akasha says. I had figured out how to make my most valued possession in the world. By December 2013, Akasha had moved to Colorado, selling everything. He couch surfed, joined a cult, then moved into a geodesic dome. His son joined him part-time. Akasha continued making DMT in mason jars, selling at meditation circles and festivals. He used whatever freezer was at hand to crystallize his solutions. He sourced bark from a Dutch website, learning it was legal because it could be used for non-psychedelic products like cosmetics. No one in Akasha's circles ever referred to DMT as a drug. It was medicine, and he was the medicine man. At times, this new vocation could also make him tens of thousands of dollars in a week. This easy money, coupled with his spiritual beliefs, began to blur the lines of legality. In 2015, Akasha moved into a house in Nederland, Colorado, a small town half an hour's drive from Boulder. He acquired a ring-tailed lemur as a service animal named Oliver. Oliver swung through rafters, played in the snow, and sat on Akasha's shoulder in town, boosting his local celebrity. He was this big, shiny person with a lot of energy, recalls CoinFlip, a friend who partnered with Akasha. CoinFlip had decided on their partnership based on a coin flip. He was just very inspired, with his big-ass eyes wide open. Akasha truly believed in DMT's mind-opening value. Yet he knew he was a drug dealer. Conviction for DMT possession meant years, even decades, in prison. But he wondered, would authorities even recognize this sand-colored substance? Would they care about his benign hallucinogen? Within his community, a mantra echoed, "The medicine is protecting you." Akasha felt higher powers would safeguard his spiritual mission. That childhood sense of invincibility returned, pushing him to scale his ambitions ever larger. Selling at festivals was profitable, but inefficient. Akasha often had to give samples, wait 20 minutes for customers to return from their trip, then sell them a gram for $100. By 2015, Akasha heard about a better sales venue, the dark web. He found Alphabay, a top market with little DMT competition. With little thought, he opened a vendor account as Shimshai. He listed small quantities to test the waters. The next day, 3 sales came in, despite no reviews. He scrambled for packaging and shipped with a fake return address. The next day, 6 orders, then 10, then 15. And it just kept growing, Akasha says. Within 3 weeks, to Akasha's amazement, Shimshai was handling 40 orders daily, mostly single grams of DMT at $70 in crypto. Sales quickly totaled thousands of dollars a day, matching his in-person earnings. This is a lot of money and this is easy, Akasha thought. So let's do it proper. This marked the pivotal shift from spiritual endeavor to large-scale illegal enterprise. The gate to hell was beginning to open.